to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now this time we will be getting one step closer to building the Darkest Night collect-to-build figure. This is the Speed Metal Wave. Now we have done Kid Flash, Wallace West, and Wally West from this version of the characters in the comic book storyline. And today we'll be taking a look at Jay Garrick, also from this version. Now I don't really know much about Speed Metal. You can look into that for yourself, but Jay Garrick is a recognizable character, of course, going back to the golden age of DC Comics. Now, McFarlane has revealed that he will be releasing a gold label classic version of Jay Garrick, which a lot of people are probably more anticipating, but taking a look at this guy, he may be a hidden gem in this wave. Now, he does look pretty random in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at it. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have some figure photography. And on the back, you do have some information. Go ahead and add this to the collection. Now, this is actually comic book accurate. This does come straight off of the pages of the Speed Metal storyline. So regardless of how obscure and out there he looks, this is actually from the comics. Now, he does come with a couple of accessories. He comes with two smaller Speed Force effects, which I guess would be for his arms or his wrists. Pretty cool. Translucent yellow plastic. He also comes with a little bit larger effects, which I guess are for his legs or his ankles. But as usual, I'm not really a big user of these effects unless I'm going to do some figure photography or stuff like that. But I always do appreciate McFarlane adding a couple of accessories. Now, he also does come with the head for the Darkest Night. Now, this guy is a version of the Batman Who Laughs when, you know, he kind of gets to like his final form. It is from the comic book storyline. And what's really cool about this guy, he has a lot of hints of translucent purple plastic, but also a big nice detail is that he does have an articulated jaw, which actually looks pretty sick. So can't wait to build this guy. We will put this away for now, but we have one more figure to go. Now that will be the Speed Metal version of Barry Allen, and when we do that, we will complete the Darkest Night. But let's go ahead and take a look at this figure. Now, first impressions, as I said before, he is a classic character, and this has, you know, a lot of cool futuristic, kind of like more modern age details and characteristics that would come with something like that. He has the traditional main identifiable costume style, but it is, like I said before, a different, more modern futuristic take, which, as I always say, we have to be open-minded and take figures for what they are and be really appreciative that McFarlane is doing versions of characters that we have never seen before in action figure form. So I'm pretty happy about this. He does look pretty cool. He has a pretty nice aesthetic, you know, physique, which is something that I'm always into, but this coat kind of obstructs it a little bit from, I think, unleashing its full, you know, frame. But I'm going to take a look at taking off that jacket here in a bit, but it still looks pretty good as far as first impressions go. Let's take a look at the head. Now, it kind of looks like has no hair under this big hubcap helmet that is like a classic part of J. Garrick Flash. But it does have some added accents with his wings here on top and these little, accent marks around it. Now, I kind of wonder how it would look with some gold, if that might make a difference. Because traditionally his accents on his helmet are kind of gold, but this may be more comic, accurate. So for right now, I'll just leave it like that. But it does look pretty good. Now, as far as the head sculpt, it looks really awesome. Something that, you might not notice when you see this in the store or see pictures of it is he has kind of a face tattoo, and I'm pretty sure that is, true to the comics. And it actually goes, down the front of his neck, and if you line it up perfectly, it matches his face down into his neck, and even going kind of like lining up with his chest emblem. So that's pretty awesome. Now, the paint that they used on the face, it seems a little bit like it didn't get a lot of good curvature, so you could kind of see through it a little bit. I don't know if that was, a detail of the paint that they used, because it is like in the shape of a lightning bolt, but it does look a little bit faded, but it's not too bad. I mean, it does get the job done, so that's not too big of a deal. Let's check out the articulation. Now, he does look down really well, gives him that cool mysterious look, kind of. You can't really see his eyes. Looks up really well. Really happy about that. Now, you do have right to left. Then, of course, you can tilt and rock his head for some character, which is always a nice little touch from McFarlane. So all in all, head articulation and head sculpt are on point. Let's go ahead and go down and look at that Thunderbolt emblem on his chest, on his costume. Now, it is a little bit ragged there, like it's been torn, but it still has that Thunderbolt edge, design to it. And then moving down, you get like a cool chain belt. Now, some people would complain that why can't it be real chains, but I'm fine with this one. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be real chain. It could be done. You could do that yourself, but I kind of like this, light plastic. It's not, that much of a deterrent for me to like take points away from the figure. All in all, costume looks really good. Let's take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side. You do have that full tilt-a-whirl motion at the waist, giving them a lot of range. You have a lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel, so you can twist them, get them in some pretty cool poses. Now, he actually does have a really nice forward crunch, and it's really smooth. It works really well, and he also leans back very well, and that's for putting them in some pretty sweet running poses. So that's going to help, posing them and getting them into like some speedster poses. So I'm sure posing them will take advantage of that. Now let's take a look at the shoulders. Underneath the jacket, he does have that socket bushing kind of butterfly joint where you get front to back and up and down motion. A lot of range in there. You got a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. If you look at them straight on, they do look kind of choppy, but if you look at them from the side, it does have like a circular cool line. And one thing I can appreciate is that they got the pins on the arms, like from connecting the upper arm to the forearms. They got the pins the right color, so there's not that off-puttingness of like having different colored pins. So it looks like they're, picking up their game on that. You go down into these like silver gauntlets that have actually some texture, some little blades, and then down into the wrist. Now the wrists are on ball joint swivels, but they do hinge, and then you can twist it and get that other range of articulation at the wrist. So you have 4 directions of articulation. On the right side, you have the same thing, but actually the fists are pretty cool because they kind of have the fingers exposed like fingerless gloves. I'm gonna have to take a look at the comics and see if the fingers are actually supposed to be skin tone. So I might paint that up if that is the way it is in the comics. Now you can get them in a pretty sweet T-pose, and the articulation is really smooth on this figure. Just the material that it's made out of, the plastic does feel kind of hefty, and the plastic feels like in between, like soft and sturdy, like it has a smoothness to it. Now you can go from that T-pose and give him a little bit of a Y pose, and of course you can put his arms above his head. Pretty awesome. Now let's check out the thigh swivel. He does have thigh swivel there. You could probably get more out of it if you were to heat it up. That usually like unlocks that little mechanism that McFarlane has inside the hips. Now what that actually does is when you have a thigh swivel like that, you can actually move the direction of the boot without having to have an ugly thigh cut that like breaks up the sculpt at the thigh. Because even when you do have a thigh cut, as soon as you turn it, it makes for like an ugly view of the sculpt. And this way you can actually get some range of motion without that thigh cut there. So I do enjoy that, and I prefer that. Now as far as the trunks go, they are rubber, and this allows you to kick up pretty high and also kick back really well. Now don't be afraid, because once you put it back to its original position, the trunks just go back, because that is why they are made of a soft rubber. And actually I've been hearing a lot of complaints or like derogatory ways of saying diaper, you know, that like trying to insult like McFarlane or even the DC Multiverse line. But if you look at this guy, this is like perfect. Like it's not too bulky and it's not too small, but since it is soft, it gives you like more ability, more movement in the legs. So this is like when it's actually done perfectly. And I really like the way it cuts that smooth silhouette of the upper body into the lower body. Now you can cock his leg out, and he has that pretty cool hip swivel. Double jointed knees. It is a little bit hard to get him all the way because of the gauntlets on his calves, but you can straighten them back out. He does have up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and of course toe articulation. Now before we go, taking a look at the lower body, I do love the way it has a lot of grain and like hidden texture in the sculpt work. Like even the jeans have a lot of fine details, like wrinkles and the stitching of the side of the jeans. You have these spiky knee pads, which are a pretty crazy added touch to there. I'm really enjoying this figure. I mean, for the most part, like I think there's just little details that aren't like perfect, but all in all, it is a really nice looking figure, and it feels really good in hand. Now taking a look at the bottom, there is no tread, but he does have some identifying marks. Moving up the back, more of that cool sculpt work in the shin guards. Up, you see the pockets of the jeans, and then you get to the back of this coat. Now, this was just really been eating away at me because I've never actually had this in hand. But what I always wanted to try and do was, but I didn't know, you know, usually McFarlane has a peg on the coat, so even if you were to try and take it off, you kind of have to like pull it apart. But if you pop out the arm, the other arm, the coat actually slips right off. Now you just gotta be careful with these bushings that are in the socket, but you can replace the arms, and that'll like hold those in there. And actually, this actually gives it like a whole different look. Like you could really get that aesthetic feel of the physique. and the way the costume, the upper shirt and all that looks, it gives it like a whole different feel. At least to me, anyways. I feel like if you were to remove the belt chain, it would look a lot better and just give it like a whole new vibe that I wasn't really feeling at first. But it does look really cool like that without the jacket. Could probably get him in some pretty cool poses. And for me, this actually looks a lot better than with the jacket on. But I was really interested to check that out. Now you can see all the shoulder articulation you get when you take off the jacket. Look at that back muscle tone that's covered up by that jacket. That's actually really awesome. I do like the way it looks. Now let's go ahead and just put the jacket back on, which is really cool. It's not connected, so it just slides back in, and you just pop the arms back in and you're good to go. Pretty cool figure all in all. Like, it's kind of like a sleeper. I didn't really expect much from it, but now I'm, you know, getting like having a lot more fun than I thought I would. Now, of course, he's gonna be perfect for getting into some running poses, setting him up with the rest of the speedsters from this wave. It just looks really awesome. Cool looking figure. Now, before we go, we do want to do some comparisons. Now, I'm kind of feeling we're gonna go a little bit old school here. Let's go ahead and bring out the DC Signature Collection, Jay Garrick. Could kind of get the way this is inspiring this futuristic version of this character. Now, this one's pretty cool because he does have like some gray highlights. He has that classic Jay Garrick speedster costume. And you could really tell where the inspiration for this futuristic one came from. And the main thing that people remember about this is that pretty cool, like, what's it called? Like vacuum metal or something like that. Some kind of silver plating that they do to the plastic that makes it look like a mirror, which is always pretty cool. Now then, I do want to bring in another like character from like an alternate universe, which was the TV version of the Flash, the one played by John Wesley Shipp. Now, I do have one of these in package, and then I actually picked this one up on eBay for 15 bucks a couple of months ago, so I was really happy about that, to have one actually out of the box to display. And it's actually a really nice looking figure. It does have that older articulation, so it is kind of limited. Like, the head has basically no articulation at all, but it is a nice looking head sculpt, and the shading on this is actually what brings out all that muscle tone. Now, this one actually has a thigh cut, and if you look at that, like, as soon as you turn it, it just makes the figure look like pretty disgusting. So that's why I'm not a big fan of thigh cuts. And since the lower T-crotch is like a stiffer plastic, you get no articulation backwards. You do get some forwards, but not too much. So just the advancement in materials and, you know, the way they do the figures gives this Jay Garrick like tons more articulation than this old school Mattel figure. Even though I do like him, he is a perfect figure for my DC collection, but I'm just really loving this newer form of action figure. And finally, let's bring in a newer figure, which is going to be one of my favorite McFarlane Speedsters, which is Godspeed. Now, this is my repainted version, where I actually painted him with a little bit brighter gold. Now, the original release is like a copperish looking color to his suit highlights, but I did mine in a lighter, more shinier gold, and it just really makes him pop. Looks awesome up there on my shelf, and looks awesome with the rest of the speedsters that McFarlane has released. Now, we are building a pretty big Speedster Army here in the DC Multiverse line from McFarlane. Really happy to add this figure to the collection. I think it's really more interesting and a better figure than I thought it was going to be. But can't wait to do the final figure and go ahead and build that Darkest Night. But you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one. The coat actually slips